And so, as they say, a new day brought a new life. Jin-young and Suk-young were finishing their routine jog together. Taking a brief breather, Suk-young pointed out that another 3 kilometers were behind them for the day, and the slight fatigue felt pleasantly invigorating. However, Jin-young merely gave a quiet nod, though an unmistakable distraction lingered behind his glasses. Catching his distant expression, Suk-young asked, Hey, what happened to someone like you? Why does your face look so strange today? Won't you tell me?" But Jin-young didn't really want to share, since that day he had witnessed Sunwoo confessing to him that he couldn't see Suk-young's face. Unable to confess the strange truth that he himself was troubled by his inability to properly see Suk-young's face, Jin-young mumbled insecurely, I'm just not feeling very good today." Understanding that he had his own worries, Suk-young decided not to tease him this time, unable to forget the kindness he had shown her sister during their tennis match. Instead, she offered, "Well, since you're not feeling great, let's just walk for today. And how about giving me a high five to wrap up our workout?" But the brilliant Jin-young managed to blurt out a completely awkward excuse, stammering, "Oh, sure, but my hands are all sweaty and gross." Suk-young merely scoffed. "Oh, come on, whatever, I'm taking a shower before class anyway." Accepting her point, Jin-young slapped her hand, and the two walked off together toward the school building. And so, arriving at school, Jin-young thought about how for about 5 years now, all the women around him had appeared like stones. However, after everything that had recently happened with Sunwoo, this strange ailment began to genuinely trouble him. Therefore, to figure out what to do about it, he turned to Jason, asking him if there was any way to deactivate this ability. Jason inquired what had suddenly brought on such a question. Jin-young confessed that previously it had never felt like a problem to him. Whether it was other girls, Yeo-Jin, or Suk-young, he had simply perceived them as flat rocks without giving it a second thought. Jin-young added that although he didn't fully grasp what Sunwoo truly meant by being unable to see Suk-young's face, since it was likely said figuratively, it still seemed to him as if she literally couldn't see faces, just like him. But seeing Sunwoo's reaction back then made Jin-young realize how terrible it truly was not being able to see Suk-young's and Yeo-jin's faces, because he would never know what those stones were genuinely feeling. Jason noted that Sunwoo deserved some thanks for helping Jin-young take a step forward, even though Jason admitted he didn't know how to turn off the ability yet. He didn't want to let his friend leave empty-handed, so he offered a practical piece of advice. Why not start by simply and carefully observing the stones? And now, walking down the school hallway, Jin-young reflected on Jason's advice. Although women had seemed like stones to him for years, he had never tried to genuinely observe them. To take down his psychological defense mechanism, all that was left was to find someone he could turn to for help. Settling on Yeo-Jin, he headed to the music room to have a serious talk with her. When he arrived, he laid everything out plain and simple, but Yeo-Jin's poor mind couldn't digest such absurdity, prompting her to ask, could you repeat that one more time?" Jin-young stated impassively that she looked like a stone to him. At first, Yeo-Jin thought he had completely lost his mind, but thinking it through, everything clicked into place. Instead of teasing him or acting disgusted, she took his words in stride, remarking, "Well, basically it makes sense now why you look at me like I'm a bug. Guess you're telling the truth." Seeing that she took it relatively well, Jin-young decided to explain how he perceived her, specifically describing her face as a silver stone. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Yeo-Jin instantly replied, I basically imagined you saw me differently, but if it's this serious, I think only a hospital can help you." Jin-young rushed to reassure her, explaining that it stemmed from deep-rooted reasons. However, she interrupted him. "Ooh, I think I know what this is about. You must have been rejected by a bunch of girls in your childhood, and that's why you started seeing them all as stones." Flabbergasted, Jin-young could only blurt out, "Holy shit, how do you even know that?" Deciding not to dwell on how spot-on her guess was, he asked permission to observe her for a bit to try and study the effect. Yeo-Jin agreed and playfully touched a finger to her cheek, teasing, "Well then, look at me. How do I look? Am I pretty or just super cute?" But Jin-Yong sternly scolded her, "Stop flirting and just stand still." And so, no matter how hard Jin-Yong stared from the front or the back, Yeo-Jin's head remained nothing more than that same gray stone. Sinking into his thoughts, he remembered the painful scenes of his childhood, the cruel rejections, the mockery of young girls, and the lingering trauma that had built this defensive barrier. He started to think this matter was far more serious than it appeared, realizing that because of petty childhood grievances, people had completely stopped looking human to him. Understanding that nothing would work right now, he thanked Yeo-Jin for her patience with his bizarre request, but visibly flustered, she asked him, "So, did looking at my body help you see girls normally now?" Jin-Young merely waved his hand, stating that he would need a lot more time to figure everything out. Left alone in the classroom, Yeo-Jin pondered the peculiar condition of seeing women as stones, suddenly wondering if Sunwoo was the sole exception to Jin-Young's visual impairment. And so, after school, Jin-Young walked alongside Sunwoo. Jin-Young understood that a single session with Yeo-Jin wasn't enough to break a barrier that had held strong for 5 whole years. However, besides Sunwoo, everything was completely different. Her delicate features, her lively expressions, and her soft smile as she invited him to go eat cheesecake together were visible down to the tiniest detail. Noticing his unblinking stare, Sunwoo asked in confusion, "Hey, what are you staring at like that?" After not responding to her calls for a moment, Sunwoo finally pulled Jin-Yong out of his deep thoughts. Realizing he had acted like a complete creep, Jin-Yong hurriedly began apologizing for zoning out and staring so blatantly. Playfully puffing out her cheeks, Sunwoo slapped him on the shoulder and scolded, "Don't daydream when you're standing in front of me or I'll start getting weird ideas about you." Deciding to tease him for that embarrassing stare, she suddenly dashed off to the side, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Help! A pervert is chasing me! He wants to do gross things to me!" In total panic, Jin-Yong chased after her, pleading, "Please don't run like that, you have anemia, and stop screaming complete nonsense about me." But Sunwoo's frantic sprint didn't last long, as she abruptly slammed headfirst into a bystander on the sidewalk. The man told Sunwoo to watch where she was going, and she immediately bowed low, frantically showering him with apologies. But as Jin-Young caught up, he suddenly called out to the man, addressing him as his father. Sunwoo was completely stunned. Only now, after hearing Jin-Young call him dad, did she realize whom she had just crashed into, though that wasn't even the main issue. Looking at Sunwoo in surprise, Jin-Young's father asked, "You were just screaming that a pervert was chasing you and wanted to do all sorts of nasty things to you, but all I see is my son running after you. Could you explain what kind of perverted things my boy wants to do with you?" And just like that, we witnessed Jin-Young being forced to make excuses before his own father.